welcome back. This is the Creative Mind podcast and part 2 of Jeff's journey as an actor, conjuring unexpected magic in another country called Germany. And if you are an actor or from the creative industry, you may also find an approach on why it is so hard to make a living as an actor in Germany, and also some interesting differences of the industry in Germany and the United States.
La 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 la, bling, and we start. When did we do the first episode? I can't exactly remember. It was in November, right?
I think it was in the beginning of December because our very first episode was in November. Oh, maybe it was end of November. Could be.
I think so, because I think I was still in quarantine, if I'm not correct.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah, if I am correct, that is. I think I was still in quarantine. And this is the interesting part. At 1:00 today, I had to take a PCR test because I think I'm sick again. I know I'm sick.
No way.
I know that I'm sick. I just don't know quite what it is. I had, I've been feeling kind of weak and a little bit fatigued the last couple of days. And having the shimmers again, the stomach issues, the back pain, all of the things that I had. It's not as nearly as severe as it was in November, but it's very, very good odds that I may have Omicron, which I thought was quite hilarious, being that the first part was captured. I mean, I don't know yet. I took the PCR test at 1 p.m. But I had a kind of a rough night of sweats, and this morning I haven't felt so great. My stomach things. But interesting enough, it could be that, or it could be another interesting thing that you can connect with. I went out to eat with me and Leo went out to eat with my friends Douglas and Christine, and the other night, and we went to this Italian restaurant where they wanted to have pizza, but they had lasagna. And it's interesting. I without really thinking much about it, I kind of just cut pasta out of my diet over the past few months, and I've noticed that I've felt a little better, because I did have like gluten allergies in the States because it's processed differently, but here it was never that bad, so I could eat pasta and I could drink beer. But over the last 2 years, as I mentioned, I stopped drinking alcohol, stopped drinking beer, and then oddly enough, I stopped eating a little bit of pasta and dairy products. Again, this is all stuff I've done subconsciously. I've not gone in with a plan. But I had lasagna the other night. It's the first time I had pasta in a long time, and I had a lot of lasagna. And I don't know if that's going to give me like these kind of symptoms, but my stomach is not very proud of me right now. And that's either because I had pasta and I went straight for the kill zone. I went for lasagna, or in fact, maybe I do have this Omicron, which I don't mind if I have Omicron. I would like to get it over with and get on the other side of it as well. If I have it, so be it. Now's a great time. I'm here for the next week or so.
So we can have another podcasting week, right?
If that's the case, I'll find out tomorrow. Yeah, I'll find out tomorrow. But anyway, I'm doing this a little bit down today, but we're persevering, and that's the point. And I have a microphone, so I hope it sounds better for everyone. And no more pasta for me. And it's true, like beer, I stopped drinking beer in Germany, which is the most bizarre way to stop drinking beer. You move to Germany and then you stop drinking beer. It's like moving to Italy and being like, oh, okay, I'm just going to stop eating pasta. Like, that kind of, in the bigger perspective, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But it's interesting. So anyway, that's not what we're here for. We're here for
part 2. So
yeah,
we had a cliffhanger last time.
Yeah. I'm all professional this time. I made notes.
Oh.
I made notes. I am evolving. Wow. Yes.
So you already have a plan where to go with this?
I don't have a plan, and it doesn't matter if I do have a plan, I'll never follow it. But I have things that I thought was interesting that I kind of don't want to forget. It's more like a don't forget notepad more than I like this. I'm going to talk about this now. But yes, we had a cliffhanger. You're right.
Okay, yeah. And I think we start with that one because I'm very curious. Because you said that story happened when you were at your weakest point or something like that in your career. So I'm curious what time that was.
I'm struggling to obviously I didn't do my notes that well. I'm struggling to put a time frame on this, but if I were to guesstimate, this was 2014. And if we want to call it my career, I guess we can. At that point, it wasn't a career. I was on a path of figuring out, could I do this and how I was doing. And I was pulling paychecks while surrounding myself with the business that is storytelling and movie making. So this was that time when I was doing all of these stand-in jobs for all these different actors. I was working on a film as a stand-in for multiple characters again. And again, I've been so lucky to have been around these type of artists and these type of storytellers. And this was a film that was directed by Billy Bob Thornton. He directed it. He wrote it. Sort of like he brought his entire crew that did Sling Blade, did so well so many years ago. So this is the same cinematographer who was a wild, crazy, I think he was a coked up artist himself, and we'd have to wait on him to say all these beautiful things. But the cast was spectacular. I was standing in mainly for Kevin Bacon. So I have 1 degree of Kevin Bacon. And then I was randomly standing in for different characters like John Hurt, like the great John Hurt, which again was just so incredible to be around storytellers like this. And what sticks out in my mind, he's since passed, but what sticks out in my mind in this beautiful time being on set was it was one late night. We were in the middle of Georgia, and there's like this small rural town with this rundown motel, not hotel, but motel. Creepy, but it was like part of the story. And John Hurt, who was, quite old at the time, was sitting on this, I think it was like this picnic bench. And he was just sitting there and he was waiting on, them to set up the lights. He didn't want to go back to his trailer. I think I was standing in for him at the time on the mark. And suddenly out of the blue, he starts reciting this Shakespearean thing. I can't exactly remember what it was, but it was just amazing. He just broke into it, like in the middle of nothing. And everybody just stopped working and stared. And he was just sitting there and just like pulling it from his conscious and this beautiful storytelling moment. And for me, it was so amazing to watch this moment where a massive production is creating a storytelling art form. And in the middle of this, he pulls it to a halt to tell a beautiful story. And it was just captivating. And it's these little things that I remember. But in my unique time in figuring out my path through these things and through this storytelling, although it was a great thing to work on, and I had the luxury of having some really good friends to work on this with me, it was at that time where I was just I've done so many stand-in jobs at that point, and I was kind of feeling this anxiety of being stuck. That indeed everyone was going to appreciate my work because I was very attentive, and I helped even helped actors block the ones that were open to this kind of thing. And that's why I was getting so many jobs to do this. But my fear started being like, this is not what I want. All I want to do. I have bigger aspirations or whatever. And I was just, I think it happened a couple of films prior to that where it started building this kind of like exhaustion for doing this and not being I can look back now and understand exactly what that was, but at the time I didn't know what it was. I thought that I was, finding my place in the storytelling world where I didn't necessarily want to stay. I didn't want to get stuck in this rut. And through that, I started getting a little intolerant. I started losing my focus. I started getting irritable even. I started losing my patience with specific crew members or whatever that had no respect for people like stand-ins or extras or anything like that, which rightfully so. Sometimes these type people who do these type jobs are worse than some of the diva actors. Really, some of them are really difficult. But anyone that had any kind of like ill will or ill energy towards these type of people, I started losing my tolerance, and I didn't really give a shit. And I think we had changed second ADs on this project because the project had its own issues. And see, sometimes when you work on a major film, it's possible that the production will reward someone like one of the main stand-ins with like a little part, a little speaking thing. And at that point in my career, that would have been so golden for me just to have the smallest thing. And on this production, I remember I hesitated taking it, but the reason I did take it is because it was Billy Bob Thornton and the fact that he hadn't directed something like this since Sling Blade. And I was like, whoa, I want to be a part of this. And the story itself was fascinating, and the cast ensemble was just ridiculous. You know, I don't even think I ever saw the film because I think it had its issues that overall caused it to suffer. But that's not my conversation, my story to tell. So I took this job in hesitation because I just got to a point. I was like, do I just quit this? Do I go back to Alabama? I was really at that point. And I remember taking this job and doing it for the money, and then doing it for, again, the opportunity to work with all these incredible cast members and storytellers. But I had a really good connection with the second AD, and that's like, the first AD. First AD, which is very rare. Like having great first ADs is it's like hitting this with first AD, even though you get the worst kind of people on set because they have to keep the boat running. Like they're captains of a ship. I mean, like you can get the worst of the worst because that's how they work, and you can get the best of the best. And if I remember correctly, I had a really good one in this one. So much that he was very observant to people that worked really well. Now, I didn't have a lot of actions with Billy Bob Thornton, but he was always very cordial, and he was always very just a really cool energy to be around, even though I didn't have much dialogue with him through the shoot. But the first AD started telling me, he was like, Jeff, I think we got something special for you toward the end. We got something special for you. And I knew what that was. When they talk like that, that means they're going to give me a small part. And for me at that point in my, if you want to call it career, that would have been massive to have that kind of thing on my resume, especially taking the back road that I took to be an actor. So this gave me momentum. This gave me juice. This gave me like, oh God, finally, after all these jobs, I'm going to get, other than being very thankful and fortunate that I've had work, but I'm going to get, it's going to be another step. Well, I think I don't remember how long it was toward the end of the shoot, but the first AD got hired on another job. And I think we were running behind and he had to leave, and we had to replace our first ADs. And in came, I can't call this guy a bad person at all. I don't really know. If you even think about it, I think he was kind of all right. But he didn't fucking know me. And he didn't care. So that went out the window. And I went from like getting gas to plummeting. I was like, that's my sign. I'm done with this shit. And like everybody could tell my energy had dropped on set. Like I just did not give a fuck. When they called second team, I'm like, okay, second team. And all the people that you don't care about, here I come. Just like really kind of, I was just over it. And I remember we were in Atlanta, Georgia, We were at the Coca-Cola mansion. Sometimes I guess the founder of Coca-Cola had this mansion and he turned it into like these film locations. And I think everything from like Hunger Games and everything else was shot there. So we were there to do a scene. And this was the last week. This was the last week. And this was the last day of shooting. And I was so fed up with what I was doing that I was at my worst. At my worst as a worker on set, as what I was doing. So much that for myself, even though nobody was being, I think, an outright problem for me, I was just so fed up with what I was doing in the process and this level of disrespect, and there was no value in it. And there's value for me that I found out later, but for other people on set, they didn't care, except for a few actors that I worked with in the past. But anyway, it was so bad that morning that for myself being there that I texted my friend who runs the casting department and said that I'm leaving at lunch. I'm done. I have to quit before this ends, which is only another half a day. But I need to quit. I need to quit for myself. I need to walk out. And on the way out, I want to tell people, you know how good of a job I do. You've worked with me on several projects and I get no respect. And again, this was an ego thing. This was an exhaustion thing. This was a point in my journey that I just didn't, I found myself getting more stuck in than I did find it, because I had just got this opportunity finally and it got taken away from me. And this ate at me like a cancer. And I wanted to tell people on the way out why I was doing it, for what reason I was doing it, knowing that nobody really cared. If I would have said nobody would, like, okay, bye, stand in. That was kind of the thing. And I remember when they went to lunch break, I went around. I didn't even go eat lunch. I was just completely, like, I could almost cry telling this story. I just felt emotions come up. Wow. Anyway, I remember I was sitting at the side of the house in the patio of the side of the mansion. And I just sat there during lunch. I couldn't eat. I was just so in such a bad place. And I think that my friends who worked with me and the other people that I was friends with, the crew, they all knew the story. They all knew that I've been, was kind of even promised something and it got taken away due to an unfortunate thing. And they knew what was going on. They knew what was processing and how I was getting to the point where I was unable to handle it, even so that I felt like I needed to make a last one out, make a stand and never do this work again. So I was sitting there in my sorrow and I was ready to quit. I was ready to, like, as soon as on strike was over, that's when I was going to tell everybody off that I felt needed to be told off, and I was going to walk off set. I don't care if they ever paid me for my other checks. And I was sitting, and I remember it had me so down. I was even like having my head down, much like I have to have it with this new microphone I'm testing out. but I felt this person come sit beside me, and crew members sit beside you all the time. It's no big deal. They take off themselves. They sit beside you and they don't say anything. They get on their phones and text. They catch up on what they can do on lunch break. And so I remember having my head down and feel this person sit beside me and sit there for a minute. And then he goes, then the guy who was sitting beside me goes, "So how you doing, buddy?" And I looked up and it was Billy Bob Thornton. I was like, "Oh, I'm okay." And I was a little bit like, "Oh, okay, whoa, there's Billy Bob. Okay, interesting." So he goes, "I just want you to know that I've noticed what you've been doing." And I kind of wanted to tell you a story. I was like, "Okay." He goes, "Did you know that I was a stand-in?" I was like, "No." He goes, "Yeah, I was a stand-in." And I remember my worst day on set. I was standing in for this actor of a war scene, and they had this fake rain. It was in the mud, and the director had me lay down face first in the mud for the longest time. And I was thinking I was making the biggest mistake of my life, but I persevered. I didn't quit. I didn't give up. And it was almost like an angel had come sit beside me. And he just wanted to let me know personally that he could feel what I was going through because he's felt the same, and that he can feel something else that he told me some other things that I'll keep for me. But it altered my state of perspective. It not only like, he also let me feel it's okay to feel this. It's good to feel this way. It's good to feel unappreciated when you know you're doing the best that you can do. He goes, I just want you to know that I noticed you, that other people noticed you, and don't give up. Keep your goals of the path that you're on in sight. And through the hardest times, just remember that you're not the only one that's gone through these things. And then we just started talking about random stuff in Alabama. I had some friends that produced their own movie out of Alabama. They wrote and directed this film that got picked up on the Blacklist script thing, where they got chosen, where they won a budget. And Billy Bob Thornton had gotten, that was his next movie he was going to do. He was going to be in my actually friend's movie. But we started randomly talking about that afterwards because he didn't know that I knew them at that point. And that was an interesting connection as well. And then we just started talking about Alabama and football and the most random things. They were back from lunch break. And the first AD came over there and said, Mr. Thornton, we're ready for you now on set. He goes, okay. And he pulled out another cigarette and kept smoking, kept talking. The first AD came back like 20 minutes later. Mr. Thornton, we're ready. He kept pushing the entire production because him and I were having a conversation. And he halted the entire production to have a conversation with me. And I remember at the end, of course, I finished the day. And as Billy Bob Thornton would have it, he had a bunch of beers on set, like Pabst Blue Ribbon, which is if you're from the States, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's a beer that these kind of hard rock partiers kind of drink. And I remember on the way out, as I was walking, he threw me a beer. He goes, Jeff, I'll see you down the future, and I'll see you down the road, and it'll be more than this. And I caught the beer, and I remember walking to my car, and I still have this beer today that I never opened. It's in my father's cabinet of in Alabama. I never opened it, but I damn sure kept it. So yeah, I hope the cliffhanger was worth it. So
yes, yes, for me it was worth it. So was this your last stand-in job?
That was my last one for a while. And this kind of pushed me to I don't know, it changed me a little bit. And I feel like my auditions got better. I mean, it really altered and this is when I started booking stuff on my own through my own agency, day player roles and things. This is where my career literally started changing at that point. But then at the very end, I'll make this quick. We found out we were pregnant, and Leonardo was about to be born. He was just born. He was literally about to be born when they contacted me. And my friend, whose name is Janelle, she's awesome. She runs extras casting in Atlanta, Georgia. Just a fantastic soul, and helped me so much throughout my time in Atlanta. Her and Patrick both, who own the company. And she goes, Jeff, I know you really don't do stand-in work so much anymore, if all, because you're doing your own thing. But I have a very specific, particular job that I kind of need your help on because the actor who has had a professional stand-in work with him for years is not coming with him from London to do this project here in Atlanta, and he's looking for a stand-in. But this person is very, very particular, and he auditions everybody who's a part of his circle. And I was like, you have me a little bit intrigued, but she wanted to know if I was interested before she even told me who it was. And she goes, there's also going to be a height issue, which there was. I was a lot taller than this person. But that didn't matter. Usually height matters because they want to get the camera angles right. But with this particular person, it wasn't about the height. It was about him accepting you into his world. This person was Tom Cruise. And I was like, oh God. And I remember talking to some of my actor friends. I was like, I'm starting to book my own things. And I finally got out of that rut. And I don't really want to go back to it. But this is Tom Cruise. and And I told Janelle, I was like, okay, I'll go. And what they do is they send a pool of people, very specific people, to sometimes interview for these jobs. And I was like, I'm going to go. And he's probably going to be so specific. And especially with the height issue, I'm probably not going to get this job. And I'm going to go because it's Tom Cruise. And as I think Janelle already knew that if I went, I would get it. And that actually is exactly the way it happened. And having to interview, with his people, his inner circle, and him was, again, it was just a new adventure. But that ended up being the last stand-in job that I ever did. I did it literally on my way out. The next thing, I was going to move to Florida for 3 months. So I finished that job out. The production started the day after my son was born. So Leo was born on the 15th of 2015 in May, and we started the 16th production. So it was like literally Leo was born, and they let me take the first day off because they knew that I just had a son born. And I think I started the 17th. So yeah, my wife at the time was left home for many, many, many hours. But my mother came up from Alabama and sat with her because she knew I was working. But that ended up being my last job, and it was fantastic to work around somebody that was so driven, as much to be around him. I mean, people can say what they want to about him, but I've worked with him personally, and he is driven in a way, especially at this point of his career, you would think that he's still trying to make it. So that was my last gig.
And that was in Florida then?
Then we moved to Florida at the end of that shoot, and we stayed there for 2 months. And then while in Florida, we had the plan that, okay, maybe we move to Germany because it would be.
Okay. I thought you would go to Florida because of that job, but okay.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
No. And if I remember correctly, I turned down. No, I did. I didn't really want to say this, but I turned down doing the next job with his people, because once he lets people in, he kind of expects you to stay in this kind of interesting way. So they were going to shoot, I think, Jack Reacher 2 in New Orleans after that. And I turned it down because I was like, oh no, that's again, I would be financially taken care of for the rest of my life. I would make an exponential amount of money. I would be in, and I think my partner at the time really had a problem with me saying no to that. Because I took some financial stability off the table. That was an opportunity, and the traveling the world and everything else. But I knew that I wanted more than that. I knew that if I took that, that was going to be my life, and it wouldn't change. I wouldn't be an actor.
What did you expect instead, or what did you want instead?
Nothing. I just wanted to be around Tom Cruise and watch this driven guy in his 50s work like he's trying to still make it in Hollywood. I wanted just to be around that, and it was a fantastic story. I didn't have no expectation. I had no expectation.
No, but you said after that, you the next job, you didn't take it.
Yeah, no, I didn't take it because I would have had to have gone to New Orleans and be around my newborn son for even longer. And I would have had to leave my partner for even longer. But at that point, I think she would have been okay with that because she'd already had good training for the next 2.5 months or whatever it was when we did that job. But I don't know. I just didn't want to take that route. It was like, I could have been financially set, and who knows what that would have led me to as far as stability and what that meant for my family and everything else. But I chose to stay on the Billy Bob path. I chose to take that conversation and really let it resonate and stay on course as a storyteller myself, aside from taking what would have been years and years of a payoff, accepting a full-time stand-in with Tom Cruise. I would make really good money. And I think after that, after the Jack Reacher, he had another Mission Impossible in London after that, and I would have done all that. But I didn't. I think it was a bizarre thing for the inner circle, which his people, I say his people, I mean, it's like wardrobe and hair and makeup. They were great people. and they travel everywhere with him, and he takes care of them tremendously. They were a little shocked when they got a no. I think there was a no to that. Yeah, and that ended my that was the time where I was still booking small things in Atlanta. My agency was finally finding some traction with me, as I said in the last podcast, and then I decided to move to Florida for a couple of months, and after that, we decided to pop over to Germany, which was like my agent was like, "Really, dude? Like, really? You're just gonna like get going and like just take off to another continent?" But that's exactly what I did.
Okay, so then you moved to Germany, and also last time you said you didn't expect to book anything. So what happened then?
No, I absolutely did not. I did not know anything about the business here. I knew nothing. I thought Germany was for German actors. And any production that came over here from the States, they brought their own actors. That happens all the time. I did not put two and two together in thinking an American ever had a shot in hell of working out of Germany. That was the furthest thing from my mind. I had a 2-year plan to come here until my son turned 2 years old, learn German, which I was in Deutsch course, and then go back to Atlanta, try to pick up where I had left off. I moved here into 2015, and what is it, like end of February 2022, and I'm still here. So obviously that didn't plan out that way. But yeah, I guess to answer your question, what happened. So as I said, I went to Deutsch course I was living in a small village, and in this area, and I don't know how this actually transpired, but I played American football. It's crazy. I played all sports in high school except for American football. My mom wouldn't let me because I was always too small. But I noticed that the Germans have German leagues of American football here, and I was fascinated by that. And Lily's two uncles, who were both like 2 meters tall, from my American friends, that's like 6'6", 6'7". They're really tall. They're twins, but they were my age and they played on this team. I was like, oh, I would love to see Germans play my American sport. So I would go to some of the games. I went to some of their practices, and I couldn't help myself. I had to go down there and throw the football with these guys because I grew up just playing backyard football. And I remember throwing the football, and one of the coaches came up to me and said, "Do you want to play?" And I was like, oh, I need something. This would be amazing. So yeah, I played quarterback for the Hagen Mustangs for not even one full season. I think I quit halfway through just because life got a little stressful, and I started booking some acting stuff. But I'll get into that later. But through a team member on the team, his name is Goalie, really awesome guy who had ambitions of getting into the film world himself and directing and stuff like that. He shared a link with me of these guys who filmed this amazing trailer out of Dortmund. Like it was like this guy who never went to film school. He did like commercial stuff, and there was a trailer for a film they didn't have a movie made for yet. So there was like a fundraising thing. I watched the trailer and was blown away. Now, it was a little cheesy. It was a cheesy action film. It was like an Arnold Schwarzenegger type action film. But the quality of filmmaking was exceptional. I didn't understand much German there, so I didn't know how great the writing was. But visually, I'd never seen an independent project that looked like a blockbuster film. And that's exactly what it looked like. It looked like a blockbuster film. So for whatever reason, and I don't really know what I was expecting when I did this, I don't think I was expecting anything. I just wanted to support them. I just wanted to tell them, hey, I'm actually an American actor that's living here. And I just wanted to tell you that your trailer is incredible. Good job. I don't know what the actors are saying, but you did a really good job. And they thanked me a lot. And then I want to say it was like a week or two later, one of the production people reached out and asked me if I would be interested in a role in the movie. And I was just like, yes, work, actor, blah. So I was an Ausländer, a part of this mafia guy, where I spoke Scheiße Deutsch. I think I can get away with saying that. And so I spoke really bad German, which was easy for me because I spoke really bad German. So it was fun. I went and did it, and it was really awesome, and it felt great to like work on a film in another country. It was beautiful. And then through my connections of Atlanta, I had through the same group of friends that I met my wife from, I had another German friend of mine who also inspired to be an actress. She was going to an academy, a film academy in Hamburg. And she told me that they were doing their thesis where she had to write a script and then shoot it. And she wanted to do hers in English. So she wanted to know if I could look over the script and just check for, grammar in English. But I'm from the South. I'm not going to pretend my English grammar is perfection. But I do know how Americans talk. So obviously I could do that. So I remember taking the script and I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, there's definitely things I have to fix here. This is without question. A German wrote this. Because the way it was structured. So I told her, but it intrigued me. Something clicked. I don't know what it was. Something clicked. But I was like, okay, I'm going to grammatically fix the things that I see that absolutely need to be corrected. But if you don't mind, just for fun, just for fun, nothing more. Do you mind if I do a rewrite of the script? Can I rewrite it? Just for myself. You can look at it, you can laugh at it. I don't know, but I feel inclined to rewrite it. So I did. I fixed her script. I fixed it while I worked on it. And then I rewrote the script. I don't know how long it was later on after I sent her the scripts. And she said she really liked both that I did. And she sent them to her professor, who was also a pretty open-minded film director. And teacher, but he told her she should shoot my script for her thesis, which I think she was both excited and maybe a little bit at the same time. So I felt a little guilty that I did that. But what beautifully transpired, and the reason I'm telling the story is quite important, I think. She said, would you like to come to Hamburg for the shoot day? Would you like to be on the set? Because it's just, to shoot it. Yes, I absolutely. Are you kidding me? To travel to Hamburg for the first time, and because I'd never been to Hamburg at that point, and to watch a scene. It's basically just a scene, really, long scene. See something that I had a part in writing. I didn't come up with the original idea, but I kind of, doctored it. Be shot. It was fascinating to me. So I got there, and it was really cool. I met the teacher, the professor, and he was really cool, really open. And the other actor that she chose, that was her scene partner, they also had to do something else. He was like some kind of GQ model. He was like very successful in doing modeling work all over. Really cool guy. His name was Nicholas. Really, really cool guy. But he was kind of like half-heartedly in acting. He was making his money as an actor. I mean, as a model. But he was a really nice guy. And I really had such a fun time being on set, and being there, watching, creating, and like giving notes, and like not overstepping my boundaries because this wasn't my project, but being there was just a beautiful creative process for me. And I really connected well with everyone there, and Nicholas, and he invited us out for drinks in Hamburg. Nicholas did. So me and Bina and him and a couple other people, I think, went out for drinks that night. So as we were out having drinks, he told me, I say, Jeff, so what's your plan here? I was like, I don't have a plan. I can't work here as an actor. I'm going to have to go back to the States. He goes, well, I've got an interesting connection for you if you want to. I'm going to try to choose my words wisely here, but I feel like I need to tell the raw story because it's worth telling. But I'm just going to say it. It doesn't matter. But he said, oh gosh, this is interesting. Oh God, this is really interesting. I'm just going to say it because I don't think it's bad. I'm going to say, before I say it, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a great thing. I think it's a great choice. It's a creative choice. So there, I've said my disclaimer. But he said that he was hired. He was hired by a film agent in Berlin to escort her to some of the Berlinale red card parties, meaning to be like eye candy and kind of bring some attention and that she was starting this international acting agency. And if he wanted me to, he could reach out to her and he could set up a meeting. I'm not going to say a name. I'm going to, you know who I'm talking about. I'm going to leave it at that. So I thought to myself, I had never been to Berlin. I was like, oh, wow, Berlin. That would be great. So I was like, yeah, reach out to her. He reached out to her. And then I think she contacted me and asked me to send my resume or something. And when I did, she immediately reached back. She goes, can you come to Berlin? Can you come to Berlin and have a meeting? And what's your plans? Are you going to move to Berlin? I was like, I've never been to Berlin. I don't know. So we traveled to Berlin. I had a meeting with her. And I remember her telling me that some great things. She told me there was actually English-speaking actors, even American actors, could work in these, and they do work. And that was news to me. Yeah, so I was extremely excited. And she goes, well, I need you to be based here. I need you to be here. And I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't know about that. Because I still had Atlanta on my mind, really. Because I love my agency back there. Still do. And I remember I did one of the most arrogant things that I think I've ever done as an actor. I told her, I said, well, here's what you can do. You can send me auditions, but I'm not signing a contract with you. And if this works out, then it works out. I don't know where this attitude came from, but I guess I didn't fully believe it. I didn't fully buy into the fact that, and I didn't want to bind myself in a contract, and I didn't know how contracts worked in this country. Anyway, so she goes, okay, we won't do a contract, and I'll start sending out for things. And she did. And I immediately started booking, and really big things. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to remember what my first projects were. They were I was booking everything from small independent films to big budget commercials. Now in the States, I saw myself as only really a film actor or maybe a television actor. I didn't see because in the States, it's really kind of segregated in a way. You had your theater actors, you had your television actors, you had your film actors. Some of them bounce around, but mostly you stay in your lane. So I had never even commercials were not something I was ever really interested in, honestly. Even though there's ridiculous money to be made in the States, I didn't care. It's this whole marketing thing I didn't care so much about. But being in Germany, I kind of opened my perspective up to trying really whatever. So I started going on commercial auditions, and I booked a massive commercial for Aldi, I believe it was. Infinity. It was the Infinity Auto. And the director was Craig Gillespie, like the I, Tonya director from the States, like this massive director for this commercial. And I booked a role on it. And I actually booked it through the girl. She's from Italy, and she's also, I think her mother was American. But anyway.
Yeah, it's funny because I know her because she at that time came from my agency. I got her that job. Mm-hmm.
We have a beautiful connection to this day.
Wow.
Yeah. We have an amazing connection to this day. You're talking about Gaia, right?
Yes.
Gaia. Yeah. So her and I, we auditioned together on the first process, and we had incredible chemistry. And then we both got called back together, and then we both ended up booking it together. Mm. And again, she's still a good friend to this day. I think she has a Western coming out soon, and I just talked to her about recently. But I think she's back in.
Maybe she would be somebody to be a guest in our podcast.
I would love to have her on.
I would love that too.
She's such a beautiful soul. I think she's back in Italy now, if I'm not mistaken. I think she's been there for quite a while, but I guarantee she would be all about it. Again,
yes. Yeah, we have to contact her.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting. I love that we're discovering this in real time. But yeah, her and I booked this together because there was other people there, and we just paired us up, and we went all the way through the process together. Mm-hmm. All scenes. And then when Craig came, he was there, and we just had such a beautiful chemistry. We were there just laughing, having fun. We didn't really take it as an audition, and of course we got it. So it was a really beautiful. But this is when I learned something dark. And I think this is a beautiful opportunity to talk about this because I think it needs to be heard, particularly in Germany. Mm-hmm. So we got paid, if you know, we got paid a buyout. I think it was something like 10,000, something like that. And I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of a little over like 1,000 euros a day, something in this range. Mm-hmm. Incredible production. It was off in the middle of nowhere at this racetrack. And they really brought out it felt like I was on another big budget project. Like it was insane. And Craig was amazing. The director was awesome. And to work with him and be cast by him was also great. So this was the first time that I had booked anything that had a buyout. And I remember going, okay, we're going to get a buyout. 10 grand. That's a lot of money. But I think German taxes are pretty hard. So buyout, that means we're not going to get residuals. We're not going to get residuals on a big commercial that's going to be airing all over the States. So I was simultaneously very grateful and also very, very, very disappointed because I knew what this meant financially. So they gave us the buyout, which I think after taxes ended up being somewhere around 4,000 euros. Because taxes in Germany are quite harsh when you make a certain amount of money. And then,
if
of course,
you're hired with that job.
And
because you were hired, yes.
So when I got my pay stubs from my agent, I noticed something that concerned me, that I was a little bit confused about. So I went to my then partner and asked her, what is Agentur auf Deutsch? Because I don't know what that is. That's agent. I was like, Agentur fee.
Yes.
So I discovered that this American production, like they often do, they add a bonus to your paychecks to cover your expenses to your agent. Mm-hmm. So that's 20% on top of what you get paid. Here's where the disgusting part comes in. And it is disgusting. And I had conversations with other actors since then that realizes this is one of their biggest flaws in the system here. There is no real agency here. I'm in the Screen Actors Guild in the States, but that has no relevance in Germany. It doesn't even matter if it's American production. It's based out of the States. If you book it in Germany, you fall under this jurisdiction, which is buyouts, which is disgusting, in my opinion. So I thought there was something wrong. I was like, well, hold on. My agent got this 20% bonus, but then I see that she also took her percentage out of what we agreed to as well. Mm-hmm. And then I noticed that I paid her taxes. I paid her taxes, not her. Like, so she got the straight cash. I thought it was a mess up in accounting. That made no sense to me, considering I know how the States work. And this is an American production. I was like, this can't be right. And I reached out to my agent and said, I hate to say this, and I'm very appreciative. This is my first big job. But I think there was an accounting error. I see that you got 20% from this production company and you still took out your, I don't know what it was at that time, 17%? I don't know what it was, something close to 20%. And then the taxes on top of the 19% taxes I had to pay on top of for her, whatever it was. But I got a very, very harsh response to this. No, Jeff, that's the way it is here. This is how us agents, this is how we stay afloat. So I was like, oh, okay. So I got off the phone. I remember just being a little bit confused. And then the more it simmered, I started going, no. So you made an extra 20%, close to another 20% from me, and I paid your taxes. You brought home close to, if not the same, to possibly even a little bit more than I did for this project. That's when the fierce turn started happening. So I was angry and I didn't know who to talk to. So what I did is I made friends with, again, Gaia and my friend Eddie and other people, that Eddie Shore, who worked on the film as well. And I reached out to these people and I said, hey, did your agent take 20% from the American production and take your own fees? And I remember reaching out to each one of them, and they all responded back saying, I didn't even notice, but yes. I didn't even notice this, but yeah. And I was just like, that is so messed up. I wasn't going to stand for this, though. This is the warrior mentality that I have. I don't care.
Okay. Yeah.
No, yeah. Please interject before I go forward, please.
Yeah. I don't know at which point I should, because I was the agent in that. Mm-hmm. This is so crazy now, because
oh gosh,
I was an agent in that.
I'm sorry.
Exactly in that. No, you don't have to be sorry, because my response would have been the same, that this is how it is in Germany. But there's a but. Yes, this is from an actor perspective. I see that it's a lot of money, because yes, the production company pays the agent this 20%, but the agent also takes the 20%, or in our case it was 20%. In your case, maybe it was 17 or whatever it was.
I think it was 20. I think it was 20.
Sometimes it's also 15. It depends on the agency. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's 25 in model agencies. And that's what's written in the contract. And in our, as an agency perspective, I mean, I have the agent perspective and the actor perspective. But from an agent perspective, it was, we're doing the work for the production company, getting them the actor. So this is their part. They pay for us, for our work. But we also do the work for the actor, to get them the jobs. So if in case they get a job, they have to pay 20% of their fee to us, because we get them the jobs. So it's a two-part thing. But in the same place, I can understand you as an actor saying this is not right, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I'm ready to respond.
Okay. But what I don't understand is when you say you paid her taxes, because that's not right.
Well, that's another conversation. Yeah. And again, I'm glad we're not mentioning names, because I do
not
believe in slandering.
And I also think we shouldn't go too deep into that.
I don't believe we should do that. I really don't. Because honestly, after everything, and there's the other story that's attached to this as well, which I will not share, because I'm just this type of person. I still consider her a friend. I'm still very appreciative to everything that she did for me, without question. But I almost left her right after this project. I literally, again, was in that place where I get this warrior mentality. I don't know what it's from. I don't know if it's justified. I don't know anything, but I get this. I get fired up. And this is my stance on this. And I'm about to respond to everything that you said, even though I understand it, but I have some interesting arguments to all of that. So again, I'm not pretending to have known anything. I'm ignorant in the situation. I don't know how the system works. I never booked commercials in the States, but I know friends who are commercial actors that work all the time. So what do I start doing in my beautiful, because I love process. I love working things out. I love discovering things. So I'm, of course, you know me, I'm going to dig into this. One, my agent took an agent fee that was given to the actor to pay for the thing. So it's theirs. And I'll explain this in a second. So I had all this money taken out. So the agent made about the same that I did. So when I reached out to my actor friends in the States, because I wanted their perspective, I wanted their perspective of commercial actors, and then also my agent. They both got to me swiftly and said, "You're bullshitting me, right? Like, you're bullshitting me." They took what? They do that here too. That's for the actor. That is why the American productions do this. They pay their 20% so that the actors, the ones who hardly ever work, will not have more deductions taken out of their paycheck. This is structured by the American productions for the actors. And this is also why The Screen Actors Guild exists to protect their actors from such situations like this. Because if you tried this in the States, you would never work again. You would lose your agency. Because the Screen Actors Guild is that time. So when I was given this information, not from one person, but from 4 different actors and my agent, at this point, I'm on fire. I am livid. And again, also still being very grateful that I booked this, but I wasn't going to let this slide. After talking to the other actors, I'm seeing now that might have had a reaction to you not even knowing, but I reached out back to all the actors and I explained this thoroughly. And I think some of them told me that they didn't really want to get into it because they're thankful for working. But I'm just not structured that way. I'm also very grateful and very much needed the money, but I have again, this warrior mentality in me. When I feel injustice, I can't help but to at least face it, at least expose it, at least have a conversation about it. So after letting them all know of this thing that happened, which some of them didn't even recognize it, they're just so thankful to get a job. That's the other sad part. They're just so thankful to get a job. Now, before I go further, I want to jump back to this very first project that I did in Dortmund with this very small independent film. There was an actor who was playing the villain. His name is Christian. Oh, I'm forgetting his last name right now. I'm so bad with last names. But he was this and you probably know him knowing you're in the business, but he's a very renowned commercial actor out of Cologne. Christopher, his last name is going to really bother me right now. You probably know him.
But I think
you
so
probably
too,
know him because
I just,
I remember having a conversation on that set with him as I was trying to, yes, I'm trying to look up his name right now and I'm finding it. It doesn't matter. I remember having some dialogue with him or some conversation with him during some setups on the show. And I was picking his brain like I normally do about how the system works here. And I noticed really nice guy, really cool girl, but he was very jagged. He was very jaded. He didn't believe in stuff like the Berlinale. He hated this red carpet stuff, blah, blah, blah. He was like kind of put off by the same things I am, but in a different way, I would say. And he told me, he goes, "Oh, you need to go back to the States. You need to go back to the States because 4%," he told me, he goes, "about 4% of German actors survive here off of acting. 4%. And I was just like, oof, that's, it's hard in the States, but at least it's probably somewhere around 60%. 4% actors can make a honest living off of being an actor. That's a scary number. And I didn't know whether or not that was true. So him having that conversation with me obviously butted up in the situation. I'm like, well, of course actors here can't live because people like their agents, no offense, take advantage of loopholes of situations. Now, I took all of this information after contacting the actors, after contacting my friends in the States, knowing that I'm fully capable of getting blacklisted. I sometimes I just don't care. I don't know if that's a good quality or a bad quality. I don't know. But I went to my agent, and at this point, I'm furious. And I say, I don't care your reason for doing this. The truth is that wasn't yours. You took that from me. And in my case, you took that from my family. You took that from my son. You took that from somebody who's trying to make a living here. And the argument was like, we have to do this. We have to do this. I was like, oh, do you? Do you? So, okay, how does this work then? So I pay your taxes. You take my 20% given by the production and my 20%. And your idea is this is how you survive? How am I going to survive? Okay, I know how we're going to do this. I want a percentage of every one of your single clients who make money because I'm a part of your agent. Same thing. So what are you arguing about? Like, if you're going to take advantage of my situation, I'm going to expect the same. So from now on, anybody that ever works as a commercial agent out of your agency, I want a percentage of because it's the same thing. Don't tell me you work for the actor, because she told me this really hard. I work for you. So does every agent on the planet. So does every single agent in the United States. This doesn't happen that way. I understand that. And then she kind of got fierce with me and she goes, we have a union here. You don't. And I was just like, at that point, I was like, I'm in a union. I'm in the strongest union. And lucky for you, I'm out of their jurisdiction. Because anyway, I was mad and I wanted to quit. I wanted to quit the agency. And this is the point where my partner turned too. She was pissed for me. And the interesting thing was, during this time, before I discovered, and during this process, it took a while to get the money, I had auditioned a few more times. And in fact, I booked another job that I'd never believed that I would be a part of as an actor, because I did not do anything in this world, not behind the thing, anything. I got an audition from my agent, who I do love the fact that she's just brave enough to, like, I read this breakdown. I was like, this is an opera. This is a theater. First thing, I've never done theater in my life. Number two, I am not an opera singer. What is this audition? She goes, they just need American actors. It's a very interesting concept, and they're looking for actually film actor and somebody who speaks genuine American. And I was talking to my partner, and again, this is right before I had gotten my paychecks from the other job and kind of discovered all these things. But I said, whatever, I'll take a trip to Frankfurt and do this cold audition for this theater, for this opera, Frankfurt Opera, thinking I am so far out of my league, this makes no sense. But I'm like, I was like, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to go have fun. It really doesn't matter. And I remember, this is a really good tie-in to something. This is a really good tie-in. I'm glad I'm telling this story. I remember going to Frankfurt and having this audition, right? And this was an in-person audition. Now, we haven't done one of these. I haven't done one of these in so many years, because everything come to digital formats, everything come to self-taping. This is my first in-person live audition. So even that was a little, not only exciting, but a little bit intimidating. I was like, oh, wow, okay, this is like old school. So I remember getting to Frankfurt and walking around. And as it got closer to the time to my audition, I started getting incredibly nervous, because I felt I was just going to get wiped under the table. You know what came back to me? The time that I auditioned for my first film in Alabama, where I told you I walked in there, they handed me a script and they shuttled me in front of everyone else. And I just made an absolute fool of myself. And I walked out in shame. I was feeling that again. I was like, I'm going to get humiliated, because nothing about this is anything that I've ever done. So I was on the phone with my partner. And I was like, I'm going to go across the street, and I've never done this before, and I've never done it again. And I definitely will never do it again, because I no longer drink. But I was like, I need a beer. so I walked across the street and I had a beer before the audition, because I was insanely nervous. And I was on the phone with my partner saying that I don't think I'm going to go through with this. I think I'm not. This was also the same feeling I had at the agency in Los Angeles, where I got there and was just outside the doors and was thinking, I'm not going to walk through the door. This makes no sense. None of this makes sense. But something was different. Something was different in my journey. Something clicked in that moment of severe doubt whether or not I walked through this door, and absolutely, it's like a golfer walking into an American football audition to play quarterback. It didn't make any sense, right? But something clicked, and I think it might have been the one beer I had. But I was like, what are you doing? It doesn't matter. Just go have fun. It doesn't matter. And I don't know what clicked, but something did click. And I remember walking in there with even confidence that I was going to fail miserably, but I was going to have fun doing it. And I remember going in there, and they gave us a cold read. They gave us the sheets that we'd never seen before. It was like, okay, you read this, you read this, read this. And I was one of the first two they pulled up in there. And this other actor who was going with me was a renowned theater actor that worked all over the world. He's in China right now. He's been a resident at this theater thing for like the last 3 years. I don't know. But all these people were well over my head in this theater world. I just didn't care. I had this interesting confidence of just not giving a, yeah. So I had fun, and it was so much fun. I felt like a kid because we had this big place, and it was like the director was really cool. His name is Yuval, and he was like a up and coming Yuval Shireen, I think is his name. And he's kind of like this different kind of concept theater director where he like intertwines the multimedias of actors, of theater actors, of film, and all these things into one like show. So this is why he was doing it. He was looking for a couple of theater actors for this, but he was just given all these really fun, intuitive directions as we were, now you're walking through this. Okay, keep going through lines. He was just so good. And we just had the best time. And I remember I was the first group that went through, and those other people that went through. And I remember walking out and just being so happy. I was just like, I am never going to get that, not in a million years, but that was so much fun. And I remember, walking through and calling my partner and saying, I'm not going to get that. You can forget it because I don't belong there. But that I made it a lot of fun, and it was. So now fast forward to this situation that I'm having with my cute little agent. And during this, right before I contacted her from the other stuff I'd accumulated from the other actors in the States and the agent. And I was just, really upset at this point because I felt like she'd taken money from my family, if I'm honest with you. That's how I treated it. She told me right before that, or I got an email right before that. It was an email that I had booked the role, 2 roles actually, on this theater thing, which was mind-boggling to me because I did have a lot of fun, but I was like, oh no, now I've got to do this. I'll make that long story short, but that was an incredible project. I had so much fun. I was booked 2 roles. I ended up with 5. And I've never had more fun in my life working with a live audience. It was just so incredible. One of the highlights of my experience thus far. It was such an amazing thing. And again, this was the second thing that I've done outside of the box as to what I would have ever experienced in the States. Okay, so back to the negative part. I'd booked the role, but I didn't care. I cared and was happy about that, but I was still very angry. And I was still going to quit. But I think I made another decision after I realized that she is going to get me a lot of jobs, obviously, because I just started and I'm already like knocking some big things out. And I was on the dock for this other television show, which I also ended up getting later on, which is another American production. But it's shot in the Czech Republic, so it was different this time. This time I got everything that you would get in the States. Anyway, I told her that what you did was wrong. And I understand you, and her excuse was, well, I do it because all the other agents do it, and that's what they do here. And if I start changing, people are going to look at me and they're going to blame me for changing the role, and you're going to stop all the other agents, and I'm going to get, blacklisted. And I understood her point. Still didn't change the fact of it all. I didn't care. I was like, it doesn't change the fact of it is that your actors suffer, and that's just wrong. Because we don't work. You may work every single week. You may get clients every week, but we do not. We don't not know when we're going to get into the job. So to take anything from me is just not acceptable. And I was like, I'm either going to quit you right now. Secondly, we also didn't have a contract, if you remember. We didn't have a contract. So that was something else. But I told her, I'm like, we're done, or you're going to have to make this up for me. I just booked this big Opera Frankfurt job. You get nothing, or I don't do it. You get nothing. We're going to balance this out. Either I'm going to turn down this job, or I'm going to do it, and you get nothing. And that's the only way I see fair. And that's how we mend this, and that's how we go forward. And that's what happened. Something else that happened too. When it got closer to the work date, we got closer to, because I booked this like 6 months in advance. When it got closer to the time where I was going to have to be in Frankfurt, I started reaching out to my agency. Okay, so where's the lodging? You haven't sent me any lodging information. And she was like, no, you're going to have to find your own way to stay. And I'm like, no, No. Okay, maybe I'm being a little bit American here, and maybe I'm like, but no, I am not going to go down there and basically work for free because I got to put myself up for almost 3 months in a city and not make anything. That makes no sense. I don't care what Germany does. I don't care what Europe does. I can't do this. And this is more reason for me to go back to States so I can work under my guild that protects actors from this kind of BS. And I again told her, if they don't put me up, I'm not doing it. Again, am I being a pretentious actor who maybe I wasn't even a really actor at that point? Or yeah, I guess I was, but I was always criticizing myself. It didn't matter. I wasn't going to spend 3 months away from my son and my family and break even at the end of the day just because I wanted experience. No, that's not what I was going to do. So again, I gave an ultimatum to the production, which eventually caved and put me up. And I was like, how hard is that? You want to take all this percentages? Do that as an agent. You're supposed to be doing this stuff. I'm not supposed to be forcing it. An actor shouldn't be going to another city and putting themselves up. That's ridiculous. That makes no sense. That's just like, no wonder 4% of German actors make it financially because nobody's here to protect them and nobody really cares. Just be thankful you're getting work. That's the attitude.
It is.
And I don't live life that way. And even though I probably needed to, it's like, if I go down swinging, so what? At the end of it, I know what's right. I'm not asking for any ridiculous request. I'm asking for logical things to transpire. I'm not asking for green M&Ms in my trailer. I'm asking not to like break even after spending 3 months away from my family. Come on, this is a major production. There's no sense why there's not money. And there was, they just didn't want to use it until forced. That's what
I know.
It was.
Okay. And that's often the case because people find the money. That's what I experienced in the agency. And I think I have to say something about this agency thing now. And I think I have to be really careful now what I say.
Yeah, of course. I understand. Trust me.
No, not because of you, because of
Yeah,
my
I know. That's what I mean.
thoughts.
Yeah.
But okay, I will say it because I will not make it a big story, but I feel like I want to say something now because this agency thing, I worked as an actress as well. And me as an agent, seeing that so much of this money goes away from what eventually ends up being on the bank account of the actor, that hurt me as an agent as well. Of course, but in the same time, I mean, I was running this office and I had to make money also. So I have these two parts. And the thing is, I know that, okay, we were a people agency. That means we only worked for commercial jobs, not for TV or film things. So that's a difference. I also was as an actress, I was with an agency in Berlin as well. And they took, for example, for commercials, more percentage of me than for films. That was less. But I also know that there are other agencies, actors agencies, who don't take anything from the actor. But in Germany, there are very little of these agencies. And now, hearing your explanation with the Screen Actors Guild is, for me, I didn't know that exactly, but that's honestly, I think there should be something in Germany like this, because I can also see it's true. The German actors, I know very few actors who really can live from acting. And I think, yes, okay, I was in the agency position. I wanted also to make money because I wanted to make money for the agency, but I'm more on the actor's side because that for me it hurt as well. But okay, what I'm saying now is I know that a lot of agencies are having a hard time to survive. And that's the truth. And I think that there is also in this whole system, there is this fear of not earning enough money and of, how can we survive? So that's also something that drives them. And I don't know for sure, I don't speak for all the agencies, but that's what I experienced in our agency and in a lot of other agencies. And I'm not speaking for everyone now, but that's the problem.
I agree with everything you just said, and I understand what you say, and I understand the arguments that were made. My problem is because an agency is struggling and needs to make money, don't let the actor be the end of the line.
No,
don't take
of course
it
not.
Away from
of
you.
course
but this,
not.
but this. I know I'm not saying you, because before I even knew you were involved in this, I could tell how empathetically this probably affected you without question. I know that, but my stance was the money's there. I know what kind of money is in these productions, like because there's an easy out, meaning there's not a real union here to protect the actors. Don't take advantage of that. Nobody, not the productions, not the cast directors don't really have much to do with this, but agencies do, and it's like, well, of course they need to survive. But don't take it out of the actors. Don't let the actors suffer because
No, and I think you said something very interesting. What you realized that this is the attitude under the German actors as well, that they take it as normal that they have to look for an apartment, or they have to, I don't know, stay on their own, whatever. This is, and I think this is the problem, because if more actors in Germany would say something like you did, it would change something. But there is so much fear of people. Also, I know the thing that a lot of actors told me, I will do it for that fee because I just want to work. And I said, you know what, we will say you only will do it for example, 1,000 euros, because otherwise I won't let you do this job. And they said, oh, please, but I want to work. And I said, yes, you will work, but we have to say something. And in the end, the money was there. But there is so much fear between the actors of saying something. It doesn't matter if it's for the fee or for the accommodation or whatever it is.
That was beautifully said. And I will follow up with that, being that it's interesting. We're talking about fear again, right?
Yes.
This fear is something that, I tell you, I fly all the time, but it petrifies me to fly, but I face it all the time. I don't not fly because of it, and it doesn't get better. So maybe I'm instilled to constantly face fear and constantly go, even though it's probably going to kill me one day, it's probably going to turn out the worst for me because it will probably win in the end. But I've always had this warrior mentality to where if I feel injustice, I'll fight it. I don't really care what the cause is. I don't really care what that'll do to me. So much that at one point, I remember this very vividly, that I remember thinking that my purpose was to come here to Germany to open the minds of the other actors, get blacklisted and blackballed and burned at the stake myself, but start a revolution. Let people know that this can be done better and should be done better, because the productions and the people are taking advantage of these situations, and people struggle because of it. And I know I was lucky enough to continue working after that and to do quite well, considering all the variables in the situation. I'm not making nearly amount of the money. Let me give the audience members a little something to chew on, especially for the European people. I did this Infinity commercial that we're speaking of. Massive commercial. This thing was showing on all NFL games, all channels, all commercials, I was getting text messages from the States for people I hadn't seen in 15, 20 years saying they just saw me in this. They just saw me in this commercial. And my other actor was like, oh, you hit the jackpot, because in the commercial world in the States, if you hit one of these big commercials, you were even almost set up for life. It's that changing. I had a friend who booked a PetSmart commercial. PetSmart is a pet store where you buy stuff for pets. It was a regional commercial. It wasn't even a nationwide. This was a nationwide commercial that I booked. This was a regional commercial that played and aired out west. It was only a 6-month run. This was a year option with another year to extend, which they ended up doing and giving us another ridiculous check. I think it was not even 2,000 at the end, but they ran it for another year, or at least I think they did. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But I was talking to one of my friends who he himself had booked this PetSmart commercial. Again, regional, only a 6-month run for 1 year cycle of residuals after taxes, $60,000 for a regional 6-month run. I do the math in my head for a nationwide 1-month run with a second year option, and I want to go postal. I want to go gladiator mode because that is money away from my family. And it's hard. And I had come to a point that maybe I'm never going to make it as an actor here, but maybe my point here is to, as I said, start an actor revolution and be crucified myself, because it really doesn't matter. I'll just take myself back to the States. And that was kind of my idea. That didn't happen. My agent and I worked it out. I think actually, if I'm going to be more precise, I think we negotiated this price. I think it was somewhere down like 4% or something like that she made off the thing, but it was nothing compared to what took it. And then the next project was the same. I was like, we're going to make this even, or I'm not going to do this. But the unique thing was, like, I was an American actor in an interesting market where they had to book so many actors from this region. So that was an advantage for me to take this. Again, I was grateful to get these opportunities, but I also know that I was also myself taking advantage of the situation, knowing that I was one of the very few American actors here. So I understand all the perspectives. Doesn't make me want to fight the injustices, because I know the money's there. I know that those residual checks, these buyouts, is also part of the BS. Like, buyouts should not exist. They should not exist. It's so wrong, because other people are just pocketing this money, and you gotta take care of the creators. You got to take care of the storytellers. You got to because.
Wait, why should buyout not exist? I think it should exist.
You think it should exist? Why?
Because they pay you for
usage.
Yeah, for usage. Yeah. So why shouldn't it exist?
Because you don't get buyouts in the States. You get residual checks. That's the point. You make a percentage of how many times that thing was played online, on TVs, and that tallies up like you would not believe. A buyout is a sum of money to say, we don't want to pay you that. We don't want to pay you the residuals. We don't want to pay you what this thing actually makes. We want to give you a sum of money and be done with it.
Okay, explain me the thing in the States, because I didn't know what that is.
You get, say if you're booking an audition in the States, same thing. You are going to get a multitude of things. Okay, you're going to get day rates, whatever your agency worked out for you day rate wise, you're going to get your day rates. Okay, you're going to get your per diem. Your per diem is cash monies, so you don't spend it on set. Yeah. If you have to travel, they're going to travel you. They're going to put you up. And there are no buyouts, because you will get your money from the days you worked. And then, of course, the per diems. And then you don't get paid again, and still the random residual checks start rolling in. And that's where the big money is. That's where my friends who had pretty decent roles on The Walking Dead was getting random $10,000, $15,000, $25,000 checks randomly in the mail, because so many people had watched their episode.
Okay, so it's depending on how many people watch that.
Or they use it, or how they use it, or how many times they play it. It's all put in the percentages. They're getting that money anyway. So the buyout prevents them from having to pay the actor. I understand.
Okay. Yes.
So buyouts are BS. They're horrible. And that exists here because there's not a union here to protect the actors. Again, and this is where this goes back to this. This is why I feel like I was given this purpose to crucify myself and awaken other actors to this thing that's happening here, is because the actors here are taken advantage of by everybody, by the productions, by their own agents, like everything they're taking advantage of. And that's why this conversation I had with Christoph said 4% of German actors make a living. So yeah, it's interesting. In my notes, I never put this in.
No, yeah, me neither. But I think it was good that we talked about that.
Right. So we may have to have a part 3 because I have so much more to discuss.
Yes. Okay. So maybe. Okay. What's on your notes still?
Oh
what
my
has
gosh.
to be told?
I mean, I guess I could skim through them so we don't have to do this ever again. No, actually, that's not true. No, I can actually skim through this. I have a little bit more to say, and then we're almost finished. So again, I was very fortunate. I was working quite a bit, and my agent was great. But there was another situation that happened right before COVID. Now, I'm not going to go into details about this because there's a very juicy story here that also plays into not having an actors guild here, a union here. But I'm going to skip that story because I just think that it's, if people, and I do want to talk to other actors. I'll be honest with you. I do want to talk to other actors one-on-one. If anybody ever wants to reach out to me and hear this story, because I think there's a lot of good information to be had in this story. I just think to be sensitive to the subject and be, respectful to the ones that are involved, I am going to not publicly talk about this. But it's a very heavy subject of a German production, a pretty big German production. And through this interesting story, I did finally end up quitting my agency and thinking that I was never going to do this here again. This is my motivation. Also, because of personal reasons in my life had changed as well. I was like, now I got to go back to the States because I can't deal with this anymore. This not having a union thing is just destroying me. There's a pandemic they keep talking about that may happen, which did happening. And I started getting worried that I was going to fall in this hole of financial struggle, which is what transpired. And do you know what would have kept me out of that hole in that pandemic time? Getting treated fairly as an actor on these massive productions that I worked on. I never would have had any of those issues. But also to open the perspective more, what's more worthy in the end? To learn, to share perspectives, to grow, to persevere through challenges. And this is what I feel this has done. And through this time, I think I've become a better storyteller. And from everything, my art and my acting, everything has grown through this process. I also have to give a shout out to a very beautiful couple, a very creative couple, Pat and Anouk. They are a couple. They are also a filmmaking team. She is a director, a writer. He is an incredible director of photography. He's a cinematographer. Just insanely talented, both of them. They hooked me up with some of the best jobs that I've worked with them that didn't pay anything, paid nothing. But I was so proud to be a part of these projects that it didn't matter. And see, that's where the balance comes in. There is a world, and it resides in the States because there's a union, where you can do passion projects that it's just about the storytelling. You're not doing this about the money to survive. And then there are other projects that are also great storytelling, but they're on a massive scale, and the money is there. That's the thing. The money's there. So if the money's there, there's no reason it shouldn't trickle down to the actor to support them. There's no reason. And that's why unions exist. That's why the Screen Actors Guild exists. I even reached out to them and said, can you please set up base here? Because they need you. Actors need you here. But of course, due to union obstacles, that might never happen. I don't know. But be optimistic, right? Maybe crucifying myself will do that. But anyway, I did some really great films with them. And I have to tell one more story, and I hope this is not going to drag on too long. But something beautiful happened in this letting go situation of finally letting go of my agent who had done amazing work for me. She really did. We had our troubles, and I understand her stance. She was a new agency, and she was doing what all the agencies have set up before them. I understand her stance, but I still couldn't just take it. I wasn't intimidated by it. I was willing to to die in that kind of way, to at least make a little bit of noise. But through this other thing, it was time to cut the ties. It was obvious it was time to cut the ties. And a week later, literally a week later, I am on eBay Kleinanzeigen. For my American friends, that's like a non-creepy Craigslist. It's actually a really good marketplace online that doesn't like facilitate anything sketchy or scary. It's legit. The Germans are good with these type things. But as most of you know, and if the ones who don't, I am infatuated and actually have become lucky enough to have a beautiful connection with an artist called Alex Gray. On eBay Kleinanzeigen, if I'm saying that right, I saw that there was this very limited, beautiful Alex Gray book collection that was for sale for €100. And like in the States, there was only so many. So this thing was probably worth a lot. So I was like, somebody obviously don't know what they have, but I want it. It's Alex Gray. Are you kidding me? So I went over to the house, and I remember going to this apartment. This person invited me up. This person was elaborate, had like this pink mohawk, all these beads on, this kind of like dress thing. And he was so awesome. I went in his house. His entire house is like hippied out to an extreme level that I can't really articulate in conversation. It was just a collage of just random, vibrant artwork throughout. And I'd come there to get this Alex Gray book. And I walked up and was like, well, obviously he's got Alex Gray book because he's obviously connected to that kind of spirituality side. And he embodies it. He was so cool. He was so nice. And we were talking. I was talking about Alex Gray, how I was lucky enough to have a connection with him through art and what I was going to do with this and how fortunate I was to get it. And we talked for like 30 minutes and we were just talking about art and traveling. And somewhere along the lines, I just randomly mentioned that I was an actor because I don't normally talk about it. I'm not the type of actor that meets people and people ask me, what do you do? I don't go, I'm an actor. I do the opposite. I kind of divert that conversation as much as possible. I'm not ashamed of it, but I don't wear it as a whatever. But because he's had such a great energy and we were talking so much about creativity, I told him I was an actor. And he goes, no shit, I'm an agent. I'm like, you are? You're an agent? You're a film agent? He goes, yeah. I was like, I'm an actor. And guess what? I just left my agent last week. And he goes, why don't you send me your stuff? I said, yeah, I absolutely will do that because I left my agent. I thought I was done. I thought I was done in the industry. And it turned out to be Georg. Georg sold me the Alex Gray collection randomly off eBay Kleinanzeigen a week after I had left my other agent due to another fallout. And that's how
this is so crazy.
I have Georg. I hope Georg listens to this, and I'm going to now mention it to him that we talked about this in the podcast. But even to this day, when he invites people over his house, like for screenings, that's before COVID and after COVID and all this stuff. But he'll talk about this unique way that him and I actually met, which is off eBay Kleinanzeigen buying an Alex Gray book. The signs could not be more clear, and He's the type no bullshit agent. He openly talked about it. I told him about my struggles with my other thing. He goes, I don't do contracts either, and I don't do any of this other stuff. You get your money, I get mine. I don't care if I'm broke. He had a beautiful, balanced attitude. And I was like, I could not have found a better agent than I have right now. He got me some auditions that were just massive, really beautiful, amazing things. Unfortunately, they never transpired because obviously COVID hit and that changed the landscape. I'm still with Georg. He still invites me to these things. I'm unfortunately not in Berlin enough these days, and I'm even going to be further away soon. But I told him that, I'm always going to stick with him. I'm always going to, we have to have him on the podcast at some point because he's just such a fantastic energy.
Oh, yes.
Such a fantastic energy. He would love it. He would love it.
I would love it too.
Yeah. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. Like I obviously the world collapsed out from under us and all of our all of our worlds kind of changed. And one more little tie-in, because I also think it's very important. But at the end of last year, through our friend Ildiko, which is another actress I met, and she is a beautiful spirit herself. I think the pandemic pushed her into like a passion that she was inspired to do, and that's getting into directing. And she actually started doing that. And because she just is such a wonderful person, she reached out to me and she hooked me up with this another new opportunity that I never thought I would experience. All this new experiences that have happened in the States is just so mind blowing. But she wanted me like to do like script analysis, like script work or script workouts for this gaming company. This owned by this incredible creator. His name is Sergey, and I've been working with them on 3 different projects now. And I will finally be back on set after a long hiatus due to COVID at the end of March. And I'm stoked about that. And that pretty much catches up on my entire journey. And that's where we are.
That's where we are, yes. So, okay. I want to ask something in the end,
Sure.
because now we know your whole story. And for those who haven't listened to the first part yet, please do it. So what have you learned out of all these experiences for your future as an actor or as a director? Because I know you will also, I'm sure you will also work as a director. So where does that lead to?
Beautiful question, and exactly what I can see more clearly now without question. And that's due to everything that I explained of having this very unorthodox way of entering the business and starting at such a late part in life, and just learning from all these this true ability that humans have, that you can do anything. We are musicians. We are the creators of our own world. The thing you have to accept is the journey. The journey that's going to be so rough. It's going to be hard. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be shocking. It's going to be incredible. You cannot dream of the opportunities you have and the people that you can work with and the situations that are going to just make you want to quit. And you even do quit some. And some of the things you quit made sense. And some of the things you persevered through also make sense. So it's this beautiful acceptance in the journey. And the biggest thing that I've discovered through this is that by accepting and fighting and going intuitively, not being afraid to fight when it's time to fight, and losing a lot and failing so much. You know how much I failed? I failed most of the time throughout my entire journey. But every one of those failures was another, okay, get up, that didn't work. Let's keep going. Let's find another route. Let's find another, through this journey, you become more of whatever it is you are as a child. And that's a pure creator. I've watched my art. I've watched my acting. I've watched this stuff evolve and grow through everything of strain and difficulty and a lot of fortunate situations. I've been incredibly lucky, and I've done a lot of stupid jump off the cliff. Oh gosh, I hope this works out. Even now, even in the time I'm in now, I'm not in a stable place, but that's a part of the journey because I know what this is overall. And you're right. My heart, I know, lies in directing. Why? Because I love process. I love working with others. I like taking a problem and working it out. And that is what I feel I'm here to do. And that doesn't matter if it's storytelling. That doesn't matter if it's a very personal perspective in somebody's life. It doesn't really matter what it is. I love taking a situation, analyzing, and doing to the best of my ability, regardless if I fail or if I kill myself along the way. I've accepted. So acceptance is probably the most important thing that I've learned throughout this entire thing. Of course, purpose is there, but acceptance is the thing that allows, and this is acceptance in every aspect, to not be afraid of my warrior, to not be afraid of my insecurities, to not be afraid of my failures, to be humble in my very lucky and fortunate situations, and to ride the big Jenny wave. So So that's my life. I'm riding the wave, and that's dangerous. And it's I could die. I could enjoy it. It's everything in that, in the situation. So yeah.
Wow, that was beautifully said.
I wish the outcome was more beautiful, but hey, that's part of it.
Yes, I think that's a good last word, but I wanted to ask one more other question. So what kind of stories do you want to tell? Or what kind of stories do the world need?
It's very interesting you ask this question, because I was laying in bed because I had to take my son back to Berlin, and that's always a struggle for me. I stayed in bed till 12 o'clock today for two reasons. One, I didn't feel good, as I mentioned in the beginning. And two, I just didn't really have much motivation. But for some reason, I was thinking a lot. It's like, how boring are humans in movie storytelling? There's always an arc. It's the arc of introduction. It's the arc of showing who's the protagonist, meaning you relate to this person going through the story. And there's also this person that discovers his purpose in like the first act, and he or she starts pursuing this purpose. And about the second act is where the failure comes. Everything completely collapses. They get turned. Everything is difficult. You just think that you're supposed to believe that they're finished. They failed. But in the third act, here comes the return. Here comes the vengeance. Here comes the success. And like, we tell this story in this arc in almost everything that we do. We know during the second act, when the person is failing, that they're going to push through, because that is what we're telling the story. So it's very beautiful that you asked this question, because I was questioning myself this, and I can't believe you asked this question this morning. I'm like, there needs to be another storytelling that people are not going to want, because people need that in their life. This triumph, this destination, this, climax. And this is why, and I'm going to name drop here, and it's going to be kind of shitty, but we talked about Game of Thrones a little bit, and I know it's a fantasy, big budget movie, but that's beside the point. Let me get to the silver lining as to why I love Game of Thrones. Because Game of Thrones, they really fucked you up. It was life. Like it transpired. Okay, there were dragons, there was magic and all that stuff, but it told life. It introduced the protagonist in the first season, the one that you thought this entire thing was going to be about. Okay. And they killed that character at the end of the first season. And everybody's like, holy, how does this continue? They just killed the protagonist because it followed the stream of life. Sometimes there is no happy ending. It's the journey. And through these events, what spawns from that and these other storytelling. And that's why something like Game of Thrones, to the first 4 seasons, I kind of lost it after they passed the books, but why that was so appealing. And I think to so many people, because it literally shocked you. You thought you know where it was going, and it didn't go that way. Hey, welcome to life. Welcome to life. That's the kind of storytelling that I want to do. I want to tell real stories. I don't want to go through this arc and get to this destination of bliss that doesn't exist really. So yeah, I was asking myself these questions this morning. So it's really weird that you're asking me. So,
thank you.
No, thank you. This is always very therapeutic for me.
Yeah.
I still feel a little sick, but that was good.
Yeah, that was good. There was a lot in that. To be continued.
To be continued, because as life, we're not in a happy place. See, there you go. Yeah. I just mentioned that. Where I'm at right now is there's a lot of good things, and there's a lot of, just a lot of darkness, which ties into everything else that we talk about. So acceptance, accepting the journey. That's going to be my last words. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Well, my friends, that'll about do it for now. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us and allowing us to share our brain activities with you. And until next time, we'll catch you later.